I can tell you kind of what we've seen already just since March with athletic directors. Once they find out that these resources are available, they're just grabbing some of our emails or our social media announcements and forwarding them to all the coaches that they have of girls sports and saying, this is free, check it out. And then in the best case scenarios, we've had some districts saying, hey, let's have a coaches meeting and talk about how we can use these resources.
Hi, listeners. This is Glenn West, the Assistant Executive Director of Texas High School Coaches Association. It's time to register for coaching school. This year's coaching school will be held in San Antonio, July 21st through the 23rd. And in addition to the 250 lecture hours that we offer, we'll be adding a second turf field that will allow soccer, baseball, and softball demos. Tennis, aquatic, and golf will be off-site for one day of exhibits as well. Basketball court will be moved from a half court to a full court. You're all not going to want to miss this. You can find information of coaching school and hotels and membership renewal on our website at THSCA.com.
Did you know that you can use podcasting to not only share the great news about your athletes and your programs, but as a fundraiser for your booster club? Yes, Lone Star Gridiron produced the 5th podcast in history and has been doing it nearly 20 years. We are expanding now to do shows outside of football. So whatever your sport, reach out to us at 713-269-4620, and we'll discuss how you can use this amazing tool to supercharge your program. And the best part, we do all the heavy lifting. Text your name and school to 713-269-4620. All right, everybody, join me in season 3 of the Coaches Call. Can you believe it? We're already to season 3, and we've got a lot of really cool changes and tweaks. But to help explain those, we're going to talk with THSCA's Libby Pacheco. Libby, how are you today?
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having us on again. I can't wait for season 3. And we are right in the throes of coaching school preparation and getting ready for it. So it's a good time. It's a good time. I'm doing great.
Cool. So tell me, explain to the listeners what is changing here, because we're taking things a slightly different direction. We're still talking to coaches. We're still helping coaches help kids, but we're tweaking the show a little bit. So if you could explain that.
Absolutely. So we were really excited about our season 1 and season 2 guests. We learned a lot from the guests that we had on, and we appreciate them. But just kind of going along with our mission of helping coaches help kids, we spoke and we talked about if we were really getting the most out of this podcast and using this time that our coaches spend with us in the best possible way. We do think that offering additional content, professional development type content, is really, really helpful for our coaches. One of the biggest complaints we get at coaching school is that attendees are not able to get to everything. And sometimes they focus a lot on their sport and they're not able to get to all the character and leadership development stuff that we have available. And so they miss out on that. We think this is a great opportunity to kind of fill in that gap for them and to hit on things maybe that they aren't aware. Just keep our coaches up to date.
I love that. And as excited as I am about coaching school, we've got a couple of weeks that we can talk about coaching school. But today, tell us who the guest is going to be. And I'm going to hand the reins over to you to introduce him.
Fantastic. So I think sometimes God has his hand in a lot of the things that we do. And right at about the time that we were talking about coaching school, we have what in the past is we've called our Women's Leadership Forum. And we were trying to rebrand that, figure out what is going to happen for this year's coaching school. How can we best serve all the coaches that are attending? And right at about that time, one of our fantastic partners with Varsity Brands and BSN came on and told us that they were implementing a program specifically to help coaches who coach young women And it's an amazing program that if I was coaching, I was like, heck yeah, this is what I want. I would have needed this. I would love this. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that, the need for it, why it's important. So I really want to start by introducing and talking, learning a little bit about Aaron Hart. Aaron, thank you for joining us today on our podcast, the Coach's Call.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and to open up season 3. What an honor.
I know, it's awesome. It's good. And it's great topic. So before we get started, just tell us a little bit about yourself and like who you are, and your connection to BSN and why you are serving coaches, why that's important for you.
Yeah, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I've been coaching and teaching for almost 30 years. And it's one of those things, time just flies by. And I started my career, very first job out of college was coaching middle school girls basketball and middle school girls lacrosse. And, as a kid right out of college, I was excited, but I was also terrified because this was the first time that I was going to be, coaching an entire team of girls. But man, those teams taught me so much about myself as a young coach, and really kind of helped shape the way that I would then coach the rest of my career. So that was early on. I became a public school teacher in New York City and Brooklyn, and we serviced Cypress housing projects at Public School 202. And at that point in time, I really had a passion for equity of access because I had no curriculum when I walked in. I had very little equipment. And so, time evolves, things go by. I got into curriculum development, and I had an opportunity to come work for BSN Sports and start creating curricular resources that we could then give away for free to teachers and coaches around the world. The leadership at the time at BSN Sports and now at Varsity Brands just felt like it was our duty to really make sure we had this equity of access mentality when it came to sharing resources. And so I've been with Varsity Brands and BSN Sports for 10 years as their lead in curriculum development. And the newest version of that is the Surge program for powering girls forward. And I'm excited to work with an enormous team of women leaders at BSN. And so I'm the spokesperson today, but there are a number of just incredibly strong, intelligent, and very passionate women leaders at BSN Sports that really spearheaded this. So Susan Riley and Maria and that whole team, I just can't say enough about their overall just drive to make this the best that it can be. So that's like the elevator pitch, a little bit of background in a nutshell.
That's awesome. I've had the pleasure of working with Susan and all of that team that you just talked about. And every time we get on a phone call, you can just tell how passionate they are about this project and about everything that's coming and everything that our coaches are going to have access to. I love the idea of just the equity of access because I think it shouldn't matter where you coach, who you coach, what kind of level of support you get financially. And a lot of our coaches right now are dealing with some really tough budget stuff. And so being able to offer that is awesome. So let's talk about Surge then. So let's talk about specifically the program and this new piece that you guys are bringing on. What is Surge? Why is it important that BSN got involved with it?
Well, it really came out of, again, this group of women leaders at BSN who recognized that we need to help coaches really help our young girls foster confidence and overall their ability to become young leaders, because I'm wearing a shirt, they can't see it right now, but it says girls who play sports become women who lead. And the reality is all of those incredible women leaders at BSN Sport were all girls who played sport. And so, that really drives the entire mission. So what we've created with Surge is really more of a community than a program. And so it's completely free. We do ask that coaches register, and that allows us to really communicate with them and make sure that we can, track how many athletes that we are, influencing, which is now over 250,000 athletes. And we just launched in March. So, I mean, that speaks volumes to how hungry coaches are for this sort of program and community. So we have an entire team set up to continually build and evolve the Surge programming for coaches over time. So it's not like they're going to go to the website and see something and that's what it is. They're going to go back every month, every quarter, every season that they're coaching as they prepare, and they're going to find new content, whether it's new webinars or whether it's new curriculum resources that they can download, plug and play. And it's all meant to be very what we would call low friction. Like they click, they download, they print, and they're good to go. They don't need to do a lot of preparation. They don't need to do a lot of overthinking. What we really want them to do is like process the information that we're giving them and then have the confidence to use that information with their athletes. So they're not going to have to dig and do a whole bunch of research. All of our content is evidence-based, and we have amazing partners that are helping us with the creation.
So a lot of our coaches, they have some type of leadership program. They often will look at some resources and have to dig and find, what am I going to present to our kids today? Just to clarify, this is not necessarily, who's the audience for this? Is it coaches or is it athletes? When you talk about resources, downloading and having something ready for them, is it to educate coaches?
Yeah, so great question, and I'm glad you asked it. So yes, the primary audience is coaches. And we know that over 80% of all the coaches of girls sport are men. So, we want to make sure everyone realizes like this is for women coaches and men coaches and male coaches who are in the trenches with their girls, practice day to day, getting ready for games, game day, the whole thing. So yes, that's the primary audience. So the first curricular modules that we have, just to kind of give you a flavor of what coaches would get when they come in, we've created a 4-week coaching module called Surge Forward. And this is all centered around how do we help girls build confidence going into tryouts, using the skills that they're learning around emotions education and resilience training to then work through tryouts, whether they make the team or maybe they don't make the team, so that they can have the confidence to really move forward to whatever the next steps are and build their team in a way that's going to have positive chemistry and all of those things that coaches want leading into the first half of the season. And so coaches go in, they click on the week 1 PDF that gives them what we call a coach's clipboard, which is literally a front and a back of a page, which tells them exactly what to do that week. There's vocabulary posters that they can put up in the locker room or wherever the girls are going to gather. So think like Ted Lasso and the Believe poster, but with a little bit more information to give context to the girls. And then we have concept posters that they can hang up as well. So one example is we talk about girls really accepting and owning their power. Like how many times do we have this conversation with young girls to tell them they're powerful, right? And then what does that mean exactly? Well, power in the context of really any situation, whether it's a team or a classroom or a school, it's really controlling 2 things: whether the people around us feel safe and whether the people around us feel like they matter. And every single teammate has the power to help their teammates feel like they're safe and they can be themselves in this environment. They can make mistakes without being criticized in a negative way. We're going to grow together. We're going to grow through mistakes. And then the other thing is they feel safe. Now we need to let them know they matter. Not every girl can play. Not every girl can start. Not every girl is going to be the leading scorer, but every single girl on a team matters because it allows us to run practices the way we want them to run. It allows them to really build community the way we want to build community. And so that's just one example of what coaches might find in one of these weeks. And so these concept posters are there for the girls to simply read and absorb. And then we have discussion questions that are all laid out that coaches can use to discuss these topics with the girls in team meetings. It doesn't need to take a lot of time. The beautiful thing that I always say about equity of access and curriculum is when you get curriculum for free, you use the stuff you like. And if there's something you can't use, then you leave it there and you didn't waste any money. So there's literally no risk for people to come in, sign up for Surge, and just check out what we have and, use whatever fits their style of coaching.
That's a perfect example of the type of information that you guys are offering. I know, again, going back to my coaching days, oftentimes you would hear those quotes, you would hear those small little snippets, and it makes sense. It's powerful, but you didn't have any action to go behind it. Like, how do you get girls to believe and understand that? We often talk about we want our kids to be leaders. We want our athletes to be leaders, but we don't give them the specifics or tell them how to do that. So it sounds like that's exactly what this program is going to do.
Yeah. And just to give a little bit more context and another example. So the first 4 weeks is Surge Forward, and that's really to help build that confidence and resilience. The second 4 weeks is for the tail end of the season, where the girls have already gone through a lot together. And, maybe emotions are flaring up, whether it's excitement for the playoffs or maybe it's anger because they're not performing the way that they want to be. And so we help coaches really work with their students to unpack core emotions. And I know as a young dad and as a young coach, I remember specifically saying to my daughter and to some of my other athletes, don't be angry. You shouldn't be angry, right? And I was well-intended. I meant all the good, but what we don't understand is that's the wrong thing to say, because what anger allows us to do is create boundaries and protect what's important to us. So if we're telling young girls that they shouldn't be angry, what we're actually telling them is they shouldn't set boundaries and protect what's important to them. And that's the wrong message. So what we need to be able to say to them is, hey, I see that you're angry. Let's unpack this and figure out, number one, why you're angry. And then we can say, how do we use the energy that anger is giving you in order to do something constructive instead of destructive? How can we build our team culture with that energy as opposed to tearing down our team culture by saying something without really thinking about it, right? And so these are the types of things when you're going into the postseason. A lot of times coaches aren't really taking, a second to step back in those moments because they're overwhelmed. Coaches are overwhelmed at the end of the season. They're prepping for playoffs. They're doing all these sorts of things. They're managing parents. They're doing all. So we just wanted to give them the tools so that it could be less time spent in that sort of planning and more time spent having these meaningful conversations. So I just wanted to maybe give another example of what else they might find.
No, that's perfect. I want to ask you something. Want to talk a little bit more here and a little bit about being a male coaching female sports, but our audience it's a mixture of athletic directors and even superintendents, principals, coaches, parents. If for all of our athletic administrators out there that are listening, or football coaches that are listening, why is it important, do you think, for them to know that these resources are available, or how do you hope that can possibly impact them as well?
Well, I can tell you kind of what we've seen already just since March with athletic directors. Once they find out that these resources are available, they're just grabbing some of our emails or our social media announcements and forwarding them to all the coaches that they have of girls sports and saying, this is free, check it out. And then in the best case scenarios, we've had some districts saying, hey, let's have a coaches meeting and talk about how we can use these resources. Let's go all in and become a Surge school. And we've had, and by the way, to become a Surge school, you just have to sign up. That's it. So it's, again, very low risk, high reward. But yeah, that's the goal. And we've also had parents register so that they can go in and print out the materials and take them to the coaches, especially for, younger girls that may be middle school, elementary. We have coaches that might be fresh out of college like I was, or, maybe they're, new to coaching, but there was nobody else that was going to coach the middle school girls lacrosse team or whatever. And so, we have parents that are printing this stuff off and taking it to the coaches and saying, hey, just take a look at this and read it, and maybe you'll find it useful. So we've had a huge kind of like diverse audience come in and really say, let's help spread the word. And I think that's why we've grown so quickly in just a short period of time.
I love so I'm just thinking back, if I had a parent come up to me whenever I was coaching and be like, hey, here's a resource of how to communicate better with your athletes, that may be a little sign for me. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to listen to this. Or are they trying to covertly tell me something that maybe I need to work on? So yeah, that's
if you're a parent listening out there, don't make that be the first conversation, right? Like, build some rapport before you just drop off resources, for sure.
Okay, good. Yes, good tip. So one of the things that we are really excited about this year, we just ended our membership year with over 27,000 coaches, and
Wow.
which is incredible. We're really, really excited. When I started with the association a couple of years ago, we were of our entire membership, 11% of those who were part of the association were females. So when we look at just males, we had a lot of focus on just really capturing female coaches. And in this past year, we started to change our language. What that was a huge deficit for us, but the other big deficit for us was also capturing coaches of girls sports, as you kind of talked about. So instead of now just talking about capturing females, we are really focusing on coaches of girls sports as well, knowing that that's a huge part of it. So we currently have over 10,000 coaches of girls sports in the association, which makes up about 36 to 37% of our total membership, which we're super fired up about.
Outstanding.
Yes, 19% of our membership are females, or specifically females. So when you talked about that, and we knew we still had some room to grow, that's sometimes a tough conversation for females to understand that, as you mentioned earlier, only about 20% of our female sports are actually coached by females.
Yeah.
And so we think it's a little bit closer in Texas, closer to about 23%. So that's really kind of our goal, is to make sure we're capturing and serving the 23%, but you're correct, only about 20%. So tell me, as a former coach of a girls sport, if you had to go back and give yourself some feedback or a piece of advice to your younger self when you first started coaching girls sports, maybe what would you share? What would you tell yourself?
Well, and actually the journey that I've been on developing the Surge program is kind of me talking to my younger self. Because, as a young coach, you make mistakes. I mean, all coaches make mistakes, but it seems like you make them by the handfuls when you're just starting out. Honestly, I think that one of the things that I wish I would have done early on as the coach of young girls and young women was to really share this body of research that really says how powerful and how strong young women are, and the force that they can be in making our country, our states, our schools, our communities better places. I'm absolutely blown away as someone who's been on this planet for several decades, when these young women come into BSN or Varsity Brands, and they're so talented, they're so confident, and they're so capable of doing anything that they set their mind to, right? To me, there's no limit for some of these young women just getting started. And I think in in 20 years from now, I'm going to be retired, hopefully relaxing somewhere. And I'm going to be able to look at the organizations I've been a part of, whether it's school systems or whether it's, the corporate setting, and really look at these young women and just see that they've elevated everything. And I believe 100% that it will be the foundation that they built from sport. And I think, again, just to kind of go back to that, I was worried about wins and losses as a coach. I was worried about the scoreboard. And I know that because of community pressure and all this kind of stuff, we have to think about those things, right? You have to. It's just a part of what it is. But in this modern day, so many institutions historically that have bolstered our kids, whether it's girls or boys, they're gone, right? They're falling to the wayside, scouting clubs, lots of different things are going to the wayside. The one institution that seems to be getting stronger is athletics, right? And so the coach is now such an important mentor in these kids' lives that they can't take it for granted. And, we can see the best of sport, and I'm sure every coach that's listening has, examples of the best of sport, but we probably have 10 worst of sport stories to go for every best of sport stories. And we need to flip that. We need to find a way to flip that on its head. And I love what's going on with the WNBA right now. But, emerging rivalries, women from every team getting the recognition that they need to get, all of these wonderful things that make any sport, male, female, whatever, fun to watch, right? That's what's happening right now with the WNBA. It's probably been there for years, right? They would tell us, but now it's getting the attention that it rightly deserves. But what do we see on TikTok? We see the drama, right? We see the drama between Caitlyn and whoever else is following her hard that day, or whatever the whole thing might be. The reality is, let's pull out the bright spots. Let's pull out the goodness and really start to elevate how important sport is. So that's a long-winded answer. Sorry it took me so long, but I guess the advice I would give is make sure you're focused on the character development, the leadership piece, the mental health piece of when kids are connected to a team, they're less likely to participate in behaviors that are dangerous. They're more likely to go to school and show up and do their homework. There's so many benefits. They're more resilient because they're wearing a uniform, because they have a coach, so let's not take that for granted. Let's really strive to make that central instead of just the wins and losses.
Perfect. Yeah, Aaron, the whole WNBA conversation, I feel like you listened in on some of my conversations with other coaches, because I have some really strong opinions. It's exciting, but let's do it right, correct?
Yes.
Let's have, as women, let's support other women. And anyways, that's a podcast like in itself, right?
I will tune in.
Yeah. So, that's great information. And I think you're right. That's probably the same trap that a lot of coaches fall into, myself included, of trying to, when you don't have skins on the wall and trying to prove yourself, like, what does that do? That's just your big focus. So, and the character part, the developing people, that's the fun part. You just don't always realize that when you're a young coach. So, So great. So one of the things that the whole reason you and I are on this conversation together is because of what's going to happen here in a few weeks at coaching school. So I started this conversation talking about how things just kind of come together at the right time with the right people and put in your world. At coaching school, we will have on Sunday night at 4:15, a Coaches of Girls Sports Forum. And in that forum, we are going to have 6 really, really great athletic directors, coaches, with a moderator who Debbie Decker is going to be our moderator. She is a longtime former athletic director in Texas, very influential for women's athletics and just across the entire state. So we're really excited about that. We are going to be focusing on how do you keep how do you keep kids? How can you give coaches tools to keep kids participating in athletics, especially in those middle school to high school transition years, which can be really, really tough. It's going to lead to some really good conversations about just coaching in general. It was really important to us, as we've already talked about, that we not call it our women's panel. That's what it's been called in the past. But I think it's just never hit on the audience that we're looking to capture. So from this point forward, it's going to be coaches of girls sports. We do have a really high level a male coach who coaches girls sports on that panel, and to be able to talk about that issue as well and that piece as well. So we're really looking forward to having Surge be a big part of that, and Varsity Brands BSN be a part of that. So I wanted to tell you thank you on behalf of THSCA for getting involved in that. And I know you've seen all of those comes through.
Yeah, and it's so important. So thank you for recognizing how important it is and acting on it. We really appreciate it.
We've talked a lot about BSN today, but one of the things I know in all of our conversations about this coaches of girls sports and with Surge is you don't have to be a BSN customer, correct?
That's part of the equity of access mission that we have, and we made this decision at the very beginning of this. So, right, they need to go to bsnsports.com/surge, start the registration process there, and we're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions, and that helps us make sure that our engagement is measured, and we can go back to the leadership of RC Brands and BSN and say, hey, this is the impact we're making, and you can feel good about it. But if they don't buy anything from BSN, which I would be surprised because I think most coaches have bought at least one thing from BSN Sports, you still have access to the resources. It's that important to us.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you coming on and spending time with us and talking about this. I'm excited for coaching school. Chris, it's going to be this is a great launch to our season 3 for sure. It's exactly hitting what we were hoping that it would hit. You gave us some great resources and some really good information that you're going to be presenting in Surge. So we're excited for coaching school. bsn.com/surge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So coaches go on and start looking around, poking around and see what they got.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity.
All right, Libby. Wow. I tell you, that is such a great start to the season. Aaron Hart, BSN Sports, Surge. What a great bunch of people and a program that I tell you, I've been always a big fan of girls and women's sports. And he mentioned the WNBA and all the effect it has had. I'm with you on that. I love all the attention women's sports are getting right now. And I love the fact that the Coaches Association is playing a big role in that and has been for a while.
It's big. It's huge. It's changing conversations because of how the association has evolved over the last couple of years. It's changing conversations on campuses. And so it's forcing coaches who have never really thought twice or put much thought into what's happening on the other wing of the school with their coaches of girls sports. It's now kind of putting everybody in the same conversation in the same space. But it's also important to note that there are still differences, and that's right. Fine and that's okay. And so being able to address that openly and comfortably is important for us.
I love that. And again, it's just further evidence of the focus of the Coaches Association. And man, I'm so excited because, I love coaching school and I love hanging out with the coaches. But now there's so many great programs that I'm going to be like, oh, I can't talk. I want to go see this panel.
Me too. I don't get to experience coaching school the same way that everybody else gets to experience now because I'm in great meetings with some great coaches, but I'm not able to see some of that fun stuff, and so it's all good. I'm gonna have to watch the recordings later.
Yeah, definitely. And I tell you, this has been a great first episode for season 3, and I love the new format. I think the audience is going to love it too. I just can't wait to get their feedback.
Let's hope so. And we definitely, with everything we do at THSCA, that's exactly what we need and we want in order to serve our coaches. So give us that feedback. Go in and rate us, send us a message, or wherever you're listening to the podcast.
Cool. Libby, thank you so much once again, and we'll be talking next episode.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSCA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSCA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSCA, visit www.thsca.com. Hey, of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You hear it for the great messages provided by the THSCA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSCA and the Coach's Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Doelle, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coach's Call.